today's SpinFire webinar. My name is Cherise Dalton. I'm a marketing manager at Actify, and I would like to thank you all for joining us on today's presentation. As a reminder, all attendees are in listen-only mode for the duration of the webinar. Since this webinar is only scheduled for 30 minutes, we ask that if you have any questions, please submit them in the questions panel of the webinar dashboard, and one of our Actify representatives will reach out to follow up with you after the webinar. We also have 3 brief questions at the end of our presentation that we encourage you to answer. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing my colleagues, Todd Underhill, Senior Account Manager, who will provide the presentation, and Alan Hardy, our Applications Engineer, who will present the tips and tricks demo. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Todd.
Thank you, Cherise. So again, my name is Todd Underhill. I'm a Senior Account at Actify, and welcome to our SpinFire webinar. Our last webinar, some of the information that I'm going to cover are reminders from that previous webinar. Here's today's agenda, and after I finish, Cherise said, I'm going to offer a product demonstration. We recently went through a rebranding exercise, and what you will notice is not only do we have an updated Actify.com site, but we now have a dedicated SpinFire site as well. There's a couple areas that I want to point out. At the top of the resources section, and in the middle of the page, you see the supported formats. So when you click on the formats section, bring you to a landing page. Here you'll find a listing of all the supported formats of our importers and exporters that we currently support. At the top of the page, you'll see our current SpinFire options: basic, classic, premium, and right below each option, list of the imports and exporters that comes with each one of those packages. So, you know, if you're ever looking at maybe upgrading from one package to another, this is a good section to go to. For these 3% off until the end of the year. So if you're looking at adding additional SpinFire licenses, now would be a great time to do so. This is the landing page for our resources section. In this area, you'll see a lot of good information like our upcoming webinars, and there's a whole list of tutorials for you as well to look at. Like you see there in the middle of the page, getting started with 3D models. We also have 3D smart dimensioning functions, and much more. So if you have a few minutes, definitely go take a look at it. We recently announced our Automotive Program Management Suite. You may hear me refer to this as our APM suite or APM. And how we got to where we're at today with APM is a little over a year ago. We went out and visited with some of our SpinFire and Central customers, really to find out how they're using these solutions to solve. We found out they were using these solutions to solve a problem around APM and how to manage those programs. You know, up until this point, there's no other solution in the marketplace to help APM managers manage their programs. So, you know, through the research and conversations that we had with our customers to better understand what their needs and pain points are, that's how we came up with APM Suite, and that's how APM was born. And here's just a list of some of the benefits that we see. Another product that we recently announced is CAD Publisher. The purpose of CAD Publishing Solution is to publish data from a native CAD file for downstream use. And this image here really shows you is a good example of some of the functionality that it has. Like SpinFire, it handles multiple native CAD formats and allows your organization to convert those CAD files. It could be a single part, or it could be a zip file from a designated folder, and convert those CAD files into other formats: SpinFire Ultimate, an image or a thumbnail file, or other formats like STEP, IGES, or JT, and others. And then process those files into a designated folder, and using the power of your server, convert those files into other formats. And what we see is this saves a lot of time for companies. You don't need to have that dedicated person. You know, a lot of you signed up for our SpinFire webinar may not be aware that we have SpinFire Enterprise. SpinFire Enterprise is a flat fee pricing model that allows everyone in your organization to have access to SpinFire. If you look at the image at the top of the slide, 4% in a typical organization are those that we call power users. Power users that can make changes to the CAD, to that CAD model. And then you have everybody else being individuals like sales, quality, estimating. They all need access to that product data. So we believe at a very minimum, there's another 4% that could take advantage of our SpinFire Enterprise, you know, within your company. So we have this flat fee pricing model, which is based on a 4% adoption rate for the total number of employees that you have in your organization. And most times we see that adoption rate being much greater. Example would be like 8, 10, 12%. I actually have a couple customers that are almost touching that 50% adoption rate. So SpinFire Enterprise comes with all of our importers and exporters that we support. You have unlimited SpinFire licenses for any employee at work, on the road, or at home. Access could include interns, temps, consultants. You know, with a lot of your employees working remotely today, this could be a really good fit for your company. You know, most of you are on this webinar because you see the value in using SpinFire. Now imagine giving everyone access in your organization, how much more value that can bring. Here's an example of one of our SpinFire Enterprise customers and the cost savings that they see. So they were a tier 1 supplier, or they are a tier 1 supplier. With SpinFire Enterprise, they were able to terminate 43 native CAD licenses. They gained unlimited SpinFire for at work, on the road, or at home. They were able to save $200,000 in annual cost. That's because they were able to terminate those 43 native CAD licenses. And then they also standardized on a vendor neutral platform. SpinFire Enterprise's flat fee pricing model is a value for all organizations, whether you currently have 1, 2, or more licenses SpinFire. This really may be worth your organization taking a look into. So with that said, I'm going to pass this over to Alan Hardy for a product demonstration.
Thank you very much, Todd. Okay, so make myself presenter. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my screen now. So today on our tips and tricks webinar, I'm going to demonstrate how to use our library, how to do some dynamic searches, how to select parts, and how to align parts in a, when you have multiple parts, maybe to do a comparison or just to assemble parts together. So to start, when you open up SpinFire, you'll see an option here that says library on the left-hand side. And this tool allows you to connect or map to certain folders so that you don't have to, it may, for many users, it could be a headache to try to search down through their hard drive or their network, trying to find files, trying to find the CAD data. So just simply by mapping a folder to the library here, that will just avoid having the user trying to search. Perfect. So I'll click on Add Connection, navigate this, we have this folder called 3D data. 3D data, I'll click on select folder. And then I have the option to maybe give it a name. By default, it uses the folder name. And I can choose how or what items I want to display in the library. So I can choose to show only CAD files, and I can also customize what, and maybe I only want to show CATIA or STEP or JT file format. So I can pick and choose what I want, or I can uncheck that and just show everything that's in that folder for visibility. So I'll go ahead and click on show only CAD file, select OK. And now you see the 3D data folder is now connected to my library. And at the bottom of my folder panel is a search, it's a directory search. So if I click on that and type in, let's say I want to type in engine, the result will be any folders that have the text engine within the folder name. And then on the right-hand side is a file search. So if I select a folder, now I can search within that file. Let's say maybe I want to type in piston, and this will give me any files that have the word piston in the file name displayed here. You also have, I have everything shown here is a thumbnail view. I can toggle between show detail and show thumbnail. Show detail, just like in your file explorer, you have the file name, the type, the size, and modified date. Thumbnail it has the file name and just a visibility of what that part is. I can also scale this up or down just to help with my eyes and see the object a bit more clearly. And if I right click on a file here, I can open the file into a new workspace, or I can import a file into an existing workspace, and that will enable the user, enables the user to combine parts into a single workspace. Add document enables you to, maybe the engineer needs to connect or link 2D documents to a 3D model, so you can import multiple files in here. And what that looks like, let's say, we have this engine file open, and you'll see a default tab and another tab here. So any additional documents that are embedded in the 3D data will be displayed in these tabs. Okay. Additionally, you have, I can click on information. Let's say I just want to see what format that CAD file is, and it also gives me the version of that file. So I can tell by this information that this is from SolidWorks 2016. All right, let's, the next thing I want to show you is how loading assembly tree only. The benefit of this is, in many cases, you have a really, really large assembly. And to help optimize the graphics performance on your computer, you can just click on load assembly tree only. And that'll allow you to be able to just see the assembly tree structure, and you won't see the geometry. So the geometry is not loaded, but you see the tree here. And you see these red icons? This indicates that there are some missing files in that assembly. So if I scroll down, you can see some child components here that, so it looks like these files are missing from the assembly. So I can go through this and just kind of do an inventory of what files might be there or might be missing. And then below this, instead of trying to navigate and finding the parts that I need, there's a search field underneath the assembly tree. Here, let's say I want to search CAM. Okay, now this is going to highlight anything in the assembly tree that has the word CAM in the part name. So maybe I want to take this subassembly and just import the subassembly instead of having to load the full assembly on a large scale model. I could just focus on this camshaft here, and it will take the time and load individually the geometry for those different parts. And now you see just the camshaft geometry is visible. And now for selecting parts, you see automatically I have the part already selected in the assembly tree. And this is selected, highlighted in yellow. So any parts that are highlighted in yellow is indicating what is currently selected. So if I right click out in the workspace, I will that unhighlights or unselects that selected part. Now, if I were to just to select a part, I have to right click, and you see that part highlight in yellow in the geometry, and that part highlighted in blue in the assembly tree, and it immediately gives you some options that you can do to maybe focus on that part. Maybe I want to do a show only and calculate. There's a few other things. We'll get into aligning a little bit later. Another way of selecting, maybe I want to just select surface instead of the full part. So to do that, we have this option here. It says part selection mode, and I can toggle between surface selection mode or part selection mode. Now, when I right click on this, it's only going to select the surface. And this is beneficial for maybe doing a surface area calculation. All right. In addition to selecting parts, to do a multi-select, all I have to do is hold my control key down and start right clicking on parts, and you'll see the individual parts multi-select in the geometry and in the assembly tree as well. Similarly, if I were to hold my shift key down and right click, you get this red box. So this boxing selection will allow me to just select anything that touches that box. So you saw that when I did that box selection, I did not hover over this entire model, this entire shaft. I just did that little box there, and anything that was touching that box is now selected. Similarly with multi-selecting, I can multi-select in the tree just again by holding down my control key. I can multi-select parts, or I can just use my shift key, select the top item and the bottom item, and it highlights everything in between. You can also, with your left mouse button in the tree, I can use a box selection and select anything in that box. Okay. Another tool that we have that enables users to dynamically search for components. Maybe I want to highlight, or I want to look at all the parts that are steel, that have the material steel. To do this, I have to do a rule-based selection, a rule-based search. So I will go to my analyst panel. By default, you might see this model compare icon because that's the top item. But here at the bottom, we have a rule-based coloring. And now I'll need to add a rule. So I'll click add, and then I will need to search property type. I can do physical properties, or I could do CAD attributes. So click on CAD, and let's focus on material. What type do we want? We want to search a string that is a value that contains the text steel. So I'll type in steel and select OK. Now you see the defined search criteria here under description. I can now export this rule and share it with my colleagues, or maybe import this rule at a later time to reevaluate. So I can have a common search criteria that I can use at any time. So for this search criteria, we want to highlight specifically anything that has the material steel in the description to be green, and any parts that do not have steel in the material attribute will be just transparent, and anything that's missing material information we'll just highlight gray for now. So I'll click analyze, and I'm analyzing all parts. There's this ability I can select a sub-assembly or select a few parts and just focus on analyzing that sub-assembly. But for now, let's analyze everything. And now you see everything highlighted in green as the material steel. And see, I click on parts, you see that part highlighted in the geometry. Let's expand this. There's also, so this is broken down into 3 sections. So everything that is matching with the term steel in the material attribute. Then we have no matches. So all these other materials that have a different material defined is displayed here, whether it's bronze, iron, or even a dash is there. That might be empty. And then there's another section here that just has, it's not available. So there are some parts in this assembly that have nothing defined in the material. And that's what you see highlighted in gray. So I can analyze this list here, or I can export it into a CSV or text file or spreadsheet to share it with my colleagues and analyze it there in a spreadsheet. So maybe I want to just be able to see just the matching components a little more clearly. I'll go ahead and make this transparent. Select Analyze again. And now we have only the components that have steel is highlighted in green, and everything else is transparent. No. And there's one more thing I wanted to show, that is how to align parts together. So here we have 2 parts in this workspace. To align, I'll just right click on this part, select the line, and you'll see, well, let's do this by arc. You'll see that there's this red indicator. This is a feature that helps me kind of see a little bit more clearly everything that, any points that I can click on. To get these red indicators to display, I have to make sure I have to go to my options, 3D viewer settings, and there's this option here that says points visible on picking. So if that's enabled, to enable that, check that on, select apply settings, and then I would need to open up a new workspace to be able to see those red indicators. So, and I can also, maybe I want to change my rendering style to smooth with edges. And now I can see the edges a lot more clearly. And I'm going to want to move, maybe I want to align these 2 parts by arc. So I'll click on this arc as my first point, and then I want to place it in alignment with that arc or circle. And now you see that these are on top of each other, and I can then do a comparison analysis. You know, if I'm just assembling parts and trying to align them by points or arcs, I also can flip the axis, and it's still aligning the arc together. Okay. And once I'm done with positioning that, aligning that, I'll click on stop, and now I have the parts overlaying each other. Another way of aligning parts is, let's go ahead and just open up another workspace. And we'll show how to align based off of 3 points. So to do this, I will right click on align again. And again, maybe I want to change my rendering style, so I smooth it just by 3 points. So for my first selection, I'll click on my first point, and then where I want to align that to that first point. And then I need to pick my second point. So I'll click on that first location to that second location, and then a third point just to complete that alignment. And now we're done. We have them overlaying on top of each other. And now I can do, let's say I can do a comparison, geometry comparison, or what have you. Okay. So that's all I had planned to show for today. Thank you again for everyone for being able to join and watching the tips. So I'll pass this back over to Todd.
So thank you. Couple items that to follow up here. If you ever need to reach your team, there's 2 ways that one is via the web at actify.com. You'll go to this landing page. If you haven't already created an account, you can sign up here. And you can also reach out via email at SpinFireSupport@actify.com. We'll be sending out an email for our next up and coming webinar. You can subscribe to our APM LinkedIn group, obviously on LinkedIn. You can follow us on Twitter at Actify_Inc. Here's my contact information. You can reach out to me via email or feel free to give me a call at any time. And with that said, I want to thank you for attending our webinar today.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Alan. And again, thanks to everyone for attending today's presentation. As I mentioned earlier, there are 3 questions that we have at the end. So if you would kindly answer them, we'd greatly appreciate it. And again, thank you for your time. Have a good rest of your day.